family consisted of my mother and father. The names were Wade and Flossie Hampton. My father was born in Blum, Texas. My mother's born in Peden, and one of the towns, or little community town close to Azle, was Peden. And I don't know where they met, but they married and settled in Azle. I was born in Azle, Texas, Tarrant County. That's the site of the city, in November the 4th, 1931. I was born at home, attended by Dr. Rohr. I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. If we go back about 10 generations, Daniel's brother, Jonathan, was my direct descendant. I mean, I'm the direct descendant of Jonathan, brother of Daniel. So the family started in the United States with George III, and then 2 generations later, 2 generations later was Jonathan, Daniel, and 10 other kids, or 11 maybe all 10 or 11 altogether. I was born 2 years and 5 days after the wreck of the stock market, the crash. So I am a baby of the Great Depression. My father had a store in Azle, general store. The store had a ice house and a barber shop, and he was a barber and a butcher and a jack of all trades. He lost the store, and we had to move to a farm, when he lost the store. But he had a 31 Model B Ford truck, and he hauled material for the WPA to make money. A little later, he got into the hay baling business. When he had a horse baler or 2, I kept the horse going around at about the age of about 6, and then I graduated to monkeying wires. You can't tie a wire with gloves on, because it just ties right up in the wire and right up in the knot, and you're out of luck when you lose a glove. So the first week of the hay season, your hands, your fingers have just covered in little cuts. But by the end of the summer, they're tough. That was a sun up till sundown job. But that summer, I think we baled 30,000 baled hay for one outfit, Boswell Dairies. I was probably 13. I graduated from high school when I was 16 in 1948. I went to Weatherford Junior College, Texas Wesleyan, both a year, and then I transferred to North Texas, and I graduated with BS in '51 at the age of 19. Degree was in public school administration with a minor in math and almost a minor in government. Was a senior, I guess. I tried to join the Naval Air Corps, and they didn't want me I mean, they said, your eyes are not 20/20, and besides, you've got a couple of cavities in your teeth. Both would keep you out of service. So then, I graduated from college. I went, told my mother I was tired of going to school, and I said, I'm going over to Dallas and see what I can look at the Army. I was inducted in early June 1948. I was shipped to Fort Ord, California, for basic training, and that was infantry. Then I was, because I aced the AFQ, that's the Armed Forces qualifying test, I was sent to counterintelligence school in a suburb of Baltimore. And that completed that school. And the funny thing about it is everybody had to learn to type 50 words a minute or you're out. At that time, I was labeled a field agent, special investigator, or special agent of the Counterintelligence Corps, and with a top secret clearance. I came to Bedford in '57, bought a new house, lived there 3 years. There were practically no houses north of Bedford-Euless Road. I moved to Hearst from Bedford in 1960. Bought a new house in Hearst. I signed on with Bell to work in as a dynamics engineer. My big boss at that time was the Bob Licton, who had brought the convertiplane concept to Bell Helicopter. And at that time, when I began, they went to Bell. They had they'd already built 2 convertiplanes and flown both of them. One crashed, and the other one was destroyed in the wind tunnel at Langley by what is called a divergent resonance. It shook itself to death and shook the rotors. It has been said that a helicopter is a fatigue machine, and it truly is. On an airplane, you worry about the number of landings and takeoffs, because that's where the big stress comes from. In a helicopter, it's every rotor, every rotation of the rotor is a load and unload situation. So it is truly a fatigue machine, and that's what I was doing in the dynamics group. I transferred from dynamics to structures, and then to research and development. And I was a group engineer in research and development for mechanical systems, and also I had the research lab at that time, during that time. And I remember very well where I was when JFK was killed. I was at work in the engineering department. The day before, one of the engineers in the structures group said he'd like to kill that son of a bitch. And he wasn't at work the next day, on the 22nd, was it? He wasn't in work, but he called in right away and said he was not in Dallas. One of the engineers in my research lab was the guy that called the Dallas police and said, the guy you're looking for is Lee Harvey Oswald. And one of the technicians was Mike Payne, who was married to the woman who invited Lee Harvey Oswald's wife to come and live with her in their apartment. They were separated at the time, I think. It was an exciting place to work. We designed the Jet Ranger, which was the civilian model of the OH-58A helicopter, and that was an exciting time. We had the group had whittled down to 2 workers and 1 group engineer. So the work was divided up. Max got the main rotor, and I got the main rotor controls and the tail rotor controls. And that was a good time when all hands were on deck. I was called into the chief design engineer's office, and there were a few other guys there. One of them was Bob Lichten. Neil McKenzie, the chief design engineer, said, "BJ, did you tell Lichten that we could build this tail rotor hub out of aluminum?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Over my dead body." Well, I talked faster then than I'd ever talked. I said, "But Neil, I can show you. We can do it." And we did. There was a fellow who had a jewelry store in Hearst. Lutz was his name. And he decided he wanted to retire, and I talked my wife into buying the shop and going into the retail business. And it lasted, upward of 10 years, I guess, maybe 13. There were 2 locations. It's up on Bedford Road. At first, that's where it was originally. And then I moved to Wells Boot Center, and I mentioned to you that the front door of the Senior Citizen Center is almost exactly where the front door of our store was. So I felt at home there. One of my customers was the wife of a lawyer, lived in Marsdale, and she showed me her ring. She showed me her ring, and it was 15 karat, and that's as big as a $5 gold piece. And I gave her a receipt for it. She said, "You keep it and sell it for me." Okay. Well, she'd come in the store and say, I want to wear it. Can I borrow it?" And I said, "Yes, that'll be fine." And it got to the point that we just forget about the paperwork and just hand it back and forth. And I sold the ring to a elementary school teacher for $35,000, and that was the largest diamond I ever handled. Well, this is the first big book drive that the City of Hearst Library ever had, and the people in the picture are all Bell helicopter people. There's myself, Ed Sargent, Fred Sturm, who was mayor after I was at some time, and then Bob Foster and Mrs. Linneberry. That was a very successful book drive, and I think it probably filled the little wooden library we had there multiple times. During that book drive, I was riding around with the mayor one day, and he said, "Bob, how would you like to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission? And I said, I think I'd like that. And he said, we'll do it. And we did. I served 2 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission, one year as chairman, and everything we did went to the council for a vote. And I decided that I could do better, make better choices on the council, and I ran against the mayor's best friend and won. I was out of town, but I found out. I called and I said they won 2-1. So there I was. I think the first time I served on the city council was in '63, and I was reelected. But in my second term, I had to go to Fort Benning for Bell Helicopter. Came back and ran again and won. In 1970, I ran for mayor. I decided that I could do a better job than most of the people that carried the votes in that body, and won by a margin of 2-1. The mayor's wife voting for me after being told by her husband not to. My campaign was a lot of walking and talking, and telephone, of course, but not a lot of flyers and signs, some signs, but not like anything today. I was mayor from 70 to 80. I enjoyed the challenge of trying to keep the thing on course, to keep the city on course with the bond elections and the buildings and the street. One of the things that I decided early on is I can't be a jack of all trades. I'm going to concentrate on budget, transportation, and water. We had a bond election for the library, and I donated $500, and Bell Helicopter matched that, and the other 500, total 1,000, toward the piece of art, and I'll call it the boomerang, concrete boomerang. I guess I've been a volunteer all my life, and I thought I had the capacity to do it if Bell didn't fire me. While I was mayor of Hearst, the Commissioners Court appointed me, or they referred me as one of their two members of the COG, on the COG board. Some of us on the board were looking at legislation that would allow counties, 2 or more counties, to create a transportation authority. I was fired by Mike Moncrief, the county judge. He came to a meeting and said in a very forceful tone that Tarrant County will never spend a dime on anything in Tarrant County, in Dallas County. And I probably got a letter the next day or so from him firing me from the board. That was one of the, I think, that's the worst thing that could have happened to the North Central Texas. In recent years, he became a Latter-day Saint, promoting the regional, the Trinity rail to the airport. At that time, the county was in the process of patching patches as far as streets are concerned, and that's their main thing. You know, the commissioner is responsible for the streets. When I was elected, I bought the first asphaltic concrete for streets in the history of Tarrant County, and a lay-down machine to go with it. While I was mayor, population increased, those 10 years, increased from 13,000 to 32,000. So that was the big growth years. And the mayor recently asked me, or, you know, some time ago, since I moved back here, said, we used to have these real long meetings, and we'd done in 45 minutes now. And I said, well, Richard, that was the growth years, don't you remember? And everybody was interested in everything that's going on, and they wanted to talk about it. And we'd fill the chambers every time we met, because we had so many zoning hearings or some other pressing problem that they all wanted to talk about the matter before the court, before the city council. And they would lie. Sometimes I'd have to say, please don't say anything, stand up to speak. If you're going to say the same thing that somebody else said, just nod your head in agreement and let's go on. I was asked if I would serve on the board sometime before the board was created, and I said I'd be happy to do it. And I think I helped, substantially in the early days, because we were presented with the drawings for creating the building that now stands by cutting in half the old Wells Boot Center. It's not that I hope to accomplish any great thing there. It's already great. It is a model senior citizen activity center. It has been a delight to serve, and why I keep serving, I don't know. I'm a volunteer. That's my middle name. I volunteer at the municipal court, and they had me calling people with warrants, try to talk them into coming in and paying up. Well, that didn't last long. They said, wow, these people, all they want to do is cuss me out. And they sure as hell don't want to pay. So I said, have you ever thought about calling 2 or 3 days ahead and warning them that it's about to happen? Because people just don't want to remember that ticket they got. So I started on that, and it works. As soon as I start on Wednesday morning, the people start showing up at the window, and the telephone starts ringing, and we're making money and saving money, saving them money. Volunteerism is my middle name. I volunteered. I guess first time before I was 10 years old, I volunteered to work for the preacher. We lived right across the street from the Methodist church, and that pastor at the time was into model trains. So I volunteered to help. do whatever, he needed. I was submerged for baptism in Ash Creek when I was 10. So I probably wouldn't have done that except for being a volunteer. And it's worked for me. In Hearst, the kids had the parks, and they learned to swim and lifeguard and those things that helped them along in life. That was so. First, Hearst had the facilities for kids and grown-ups, and the parks and recreation. We had clean neighborhoods. We had low, almost non-existent crime, and the kids had facilities. So and the schools were good. At that time, it couldn't have been better. We bought property on Eagle Mountain Lake in very early on, about 58, I think, and lived there about 10 years or better, and came back to Hearst in '05. And people always ask me, says, why did you move back to Hearst? And I said, where else is there? There's no other place. All the amenities that anybody could ask for, as far as I'm concerned, and it is well run, has the best people in place to make it continue to run, and we have this place that's paying for itself. Over the years, I've enjoyed the city of Hearst from every aspect that you can think of. I lived in Germany twice, and have been around. I've been in every state except one. There's only one place that I said that I visited. I said, I got to come back here, besides Hearst, and that was Hawaii. Hearst is a great place. Hearst first. The ballot box could be the one that was used by the first black voter in the United States. And the box came to me from an old friend whose mother was an antique dealer in Morristown, New Jersey. And that event was in just down the road from Morristown. And according to my friend's mother, that box belonged to one of Thomas Edison's family. The cast iron is heavy, but the glass must be an inch thick. It has a stove lid top, the old wood stove lid, and there's a very small hole in the middle of it to drop the marble in there to vote. And they've used that kind of thing for, until not too long ago. But typically it would be a black and a white on a up or down question, like on a bond program or that kind of thing. But if there are 5 people in a race, well, you got to have 5 different colors. And the picture shows that this person is identified as the black person who was voted 15 minutes after Congress passed the 15th Amendment.